And welcome back to Radio Gaga, mixtape for the end of humanity. Going to be reading you a little section about this lovely building right here. This is the California State Capitol building here in beautiful Sacramento, California. Okay, ready? The Spears v. Disney verdict rattled state capitals. With public opinion nipping at their heels, legislators in Sacramento and Albany moved swiftly to outlaw child labor in the entertainment industry. California Assemblyman Gabriel Rufio Papengo D. Anaheim still boiled from an audition for a Disney show 3 decades earlier. As the lead singer of the Philharmonics, he had won California State Glee Club competition and placed second nationally. As he auditioned for the title role in a new singing show, Real American Teen, the producer stopped him and asked why he was auditioning if he wasn't American. This flummoxed him. Rufio had never questioned his Americanness. He is American, his parents and grandparents are American. His grandfather emigrated from Cebu in the Philippines and worked directly with Larry Itlong to organize Filipino farmers throughout California. Together with Cesar Chavez, they waged the Delano grape strike. His grandparents marched 300 miles with thousands of protesters to the steps of the state capitol right here, winning the first labor contracts in the history of American farming. But none of that mattered. They were looking for a real American teen, i.e. white. He and others that didn't fit the description were viewed as counterfeit Americans. Rufio still stung with rejection. He turned his theatrical skills to politics, where his booming voice commanded crowds. His family's history of labor advocacy cemented him as the political choice for unions. Now, as he stood in the state capitol building, looking out where his forefathers had protested, Rufio knew he had a sacred duty to help the suffering and the oppressed. A bill to end child labor in the entertainment industry would be an easy, low-hanging fruit to satisfy his constituencies. Bill 925, the Child Entertainer Endangerment Act, also known as the Spears-Jackson Act, banned the use of child labor in entertainment for those under the age of 16. On top of this, the bill created prohibitive burdens to hiring young adult entertainers, YAEs, ages 16 to 21. The bill taxed employers an equal amount to 10% of the wages for any YAE that they had on staff. These funds would pay for the State Youth Mental Health Agency to ensure the sanity of these young entertainers. Each year, all youth actors, models, singers, and dancers would be required to undergo a thorough mental health evaluation. Any hint of disturbance would require intensive cognitive behavioral therapy paid for by their employer. Heads in boardrooms spun as they read the final bill. With briefcases held like shields, teams of accountants convinced entertainment executives how catastrophic the cost would be to comply. Risk-averse insurance companies threatened to drop all studios that continue to employ child entertainers. These factors, combined with the threat of more lawsuits, made it financially impossible to employ YAEs. In Albany, a copycat bill moved through the New York State Assembly and Senate. Broadway carved out an exemption by proving that children who are theater geeks are much more emotionally grounded and that their Broadway fame rarely splashes beyond the Great White Way. Opponents of this exemption cited the Anna Kendrick phenom, but teams of statisticians proved that although she is indeed exceptional, she is not the rule. Opposition grappled with how to respond. Legal departments were asked how the entertainment industry could lobby hard to abort this bill. In the end, this crippled industry feared retribution if it fought these bills. A public now sympathetic to the plight of child actors might turn on them and turn them off. A public now sympathetic to the plight of child actors might turn on them and turn them off. Public support for these bills grew. Protesters marched around Disneyland, led by Anita Gallagher. Over a microphone, she cried, "Save our children! Oh, won't somebody please think of the children?" For Anita, this campaign had a twofold benefit. First, it provided her with free publicity, and as the 24 News Hour cycle churned on the scandal. And second, in her own little corner, she dreamt of becoming a singing sensation. If these bills were approved, she would have less competition to worry about. Both bills were passed with unanimous support and signed in star-studded press conferences by Governor Mary Carey here in California in Sacramento and Governor Jimmy McMillan in New York. Bills enforcing youth vaccination, incentivizing municipalities to fluoridate water, an emergency bond to fund innovation to combat climate change were tabled during that same legislation. Each of these would have helped millions of more children than Bill 925 ever would, but wallowed because these were nowhere near as exciting and thus couldn't be exploited for campaign donations and election purposes. Each bill granted a 6-month sunset period before enforcement. Family sitcoms and teen dramas had to find clever ways of getting rid of the roles of sons and daughters. Lazy writers gifted characters full scholarships to boarding schools in other states. In dramas, most characters were killed off. By Fall Sweeps Week, a heartbreaking epidemic pushed all youth roles to extinction. Only General Hospital capitalized on this trend by employing a team of hunky epidemiologists who would sweat shirtless long into the night, attempting to uncover the cause of and a cure for this heinous, child-killing disease. A few shows dashed this problem. This trend harkened back to the youthful Stacey Dash, who played a high school girl well into her 30s, first in the movie Clueless and then in the TV show based off this film. But most producers scoffed at this gamble, worried that these stars would age too quickly and cause a Jerry Blankification of their shows. Disney backed its assets up and focused on rebranding, while the animation studios and amusement parks tilt-a-whirled, unscathed by public scorn. Its live-action divisions tanked. Disney hired the same public relations firm that helped the Catholic Church, the One True Church trademark, needed to reinvent itself after the Great Molestation scandal decades earlier. The firm worked diligently to reform the church's craven image after local parishes in the Holy See not only ignored the sexual abuse of thousands of children by its priests, but also aggressively silenced the survivors. The Boston-based PR firm attempted to reignite passion for Disney and the Disney Channel. Name recognition was high, but most people had never developed an affection for the Disney Channel, and after the trial, most Americans could only see its shows through this lens. After sinking $50 million into the campaign, Disney stock still held steady at 10% of the pre-trial high. With no other choice, Disney severed its cancerous live-action studios before they could affect other divisions. The law sent shockwaves into all corners of the entertainment industry. The recording industry had thought itself immune. The dreadful prognosis came from one management consultant, Jan Glass. Heralded as an organizational oracle, Jan could plot the movement of 1,000 independent factors that would swell into a wave able to topple an entire industry. Before an emergency meeting of the Recording Industry Association of America, she presented the dire news to top executives. We all know that pop stars have a shelf life of 7 years. Jan walks them through a 3D PowerPoint presentation of her trademark pop star maturity timeline. With their second and third albums as the most profitable, the fourth and fifth albums are usually lackluster, but people buy them out of loyalty to their idol. And with touring, these stars remain at peak earning potential. Now, for a pop star to be ready for primetime, she needs to have at least 3 years of experience refining her image, her singing, and her lip-syncing skills. Gentlemen, must I remind you of the shrieking lumps of clay we start with? The presentation unfolds to show footage of a harsh, early performance of a teenage Beyonce Knowles with the Destiny's Child group. Halfway through the song, Jan stops the video and grimaces through her glasses. As the ascendant Queen Bee states in the song, a no, 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 no. Video of a 15-year-old Rihanna wailing a Whitney Houston song shanks this point home with her vocals' dull edges. Now, what does this mean for the recording industry, gentlemen? In 1 year, your supply of raw star material will dry up. Disney and Nickelodeon shows have served as feeders for the recording industry for 4 decades. Men, the new law severely restricts hiring singers until they've reached 21. By the time they've reached peak earning potential, they will be in their late 20s. That's over the hill, twice the age of the coveted tween and teenage markets. Jen waits for a beat for the group's hubbub to die down. Hub, 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 hub. Now, gentlemen, I've spent some time looking for solutions. The best I come up with thus far is a finishing school for new pop stars. Think of it as a working farm where our clay is plucked, tweaked, and molded for prime time. Korean music studios have run these pop star puppy mills for decades. We can sell this as an exclusive conservancy. I know what you're all thinking, price tag. The cost for this could reach into hundreds of millions of dollars, and we could probably rely on only 20% of graduates becoming thriving, lucrative pop stars afterwards. This would still be enough to keep profits soaring, but the large upfront costs necessary to avert industry extinction would require coordination between the different record companies. The suited men snooted at the thought of investing together in this endeavor. Okay. Another option would be to import professional singers from other countries. Aliens like Justin Bieber, Shakira, and Drake have all grown on American audiences. Of course, only after they've transformed for an American audience. India, Vietnam, and Egypt are churning out high-caliber singers at a low cost. The last suggestion brings scowls from the white faces. Gentlemen, you need to act fast before your revenues plunge. Sure, Jan. The president of Sony says as he rolls his eyes theatrically. Jan fumes from the podium as the men turn to chatter with each other. Fuck them all, she thinks as she storms off the stage. The meeting adjourns with no solution. A few executives smile, happy to kick the responsibility down the road for whomever replaces them after they retire to a tropical beach paradise. Perhaps a beachside bungalow at Tan Penis Island. And that is a chapter of Radio Gaga, mixtape for the end of humanity, right here in Sacramento, California, in front of the Capitol building. Radio Gaga!